I was scared of Warwick. I'm scared of him.
Yeah.
I wonder why I chose Willow.
I wonder why you chose
I know.
I think we should definitely choose Willow.
Yeah.
You think Willow's gonna lose, and then Willow wins.
I had a partner in Warwick who could tell me and convince me that we were on the right track.
Wow.
The world needs you again. It needs your magic.
You know, I suddenly felt the great responsibility I had to fans like yourself all over the world to make this good. Into the unknown. That's where we must go.
Willow er tilbage. Den lille troldmand med det store hjerte dukkede først op i fantasyfilmen af samme navn fra 1988, som blev instrueret af Ron Howard, og som var udtænkt af selveste George Lucas. Og her mødte han tilfældigvis filmhistoriens nok sødeste baby, Elora Danan.
My children found this baby alone by the river.
This child is special.
En pige, som blev spået til at besejre rigets onde dronning. Og sammen drog Willow og Elora gennem et magisk univers, hvor de blandt andet støtte på den rapkæftede fægter Matt Mardigan, spillet af Val Kilmer. Og sammen reddede de verden.
That's right.
Og nu, hele 34 år senere, har Disney lavet en seriefortsættelse.
I was told that once long ago you defeated the forces of evil.
You remind me of your mother.
My dear friend, I thought I could prevent all this. I was wrong.
My brother was abducted. The world needs you again. It needs your magic.
Follow me.
Og Warwick Davis er naturligvis tilbage i hovedrollen, og denne gang slår Willow sig sammen med et helt nyt kuld af helte for at besejre ondskabens mørke kræfter.
Our true enemy is still out there, rallying the forces of evil, and the only thing standing in its path is us.
Og vi har talt med alle seriens unge stjerner, plus Warwick Davis selv, og seriens hovedproducer og forfatter, Jon Kasdan.
My father would very much like you, Johan. I can't get him to give up his Blu-ray collection. Hard media is where it's at.
Og vi starter med skuespillerne, som er så veloplagte og karismatiske, at man lynhurtigt falder pladask for persongalleriet. Og skuespillerne er også relativt ukendte. Amar Chadha-Patel spiller den drilske borgmand, og han er nok bedst kendt for B-filmen Doom Annihilation. Erin Kellyman har før medvirket i fantasifulde serier og film, såsom Marvels The Falcon and the Winter Soldier og Star Wars-filmen om Han Solo, og i Willow spiller hun sværfægteren Jade. Tony Revolori er nok castets største navn. Han fik sit gennembrud i Wes Andersons Grand Budapest Hotel, og han har også optrådt som Peter Parkers skolefjende Flash Thompson i de nyere Spider-Man-film.
Sup, dickwad? Thought you drowned.
Ellie Bamber spiller den gådefulde Dove, og hun havde en mindeværdig birolle i Tom Fords nerveflinsende Nocturnal Animals. Ruby Cruz og Dempsey Bryk spiller henholdsvis datter og søn af Val Kilmers Matt Mardigan fra den første film, som i øvrigt desværre ikke er med i den nye serie. Ruby Cruz havde en mindre rolle i krimiserien Mayor of Easttown med Kate Winslet, og Dempsey Bryk er nok seriens mindst kendte ansigt, som primært har optrådt i små serier og film, inklusive det prisbelønnede boksedrama The Fight Machine med Michael Ironside. Og sammen udgør de 6 en herlig trup, der kommer på en masse både hestblæsende og uhyggelige eventyr gennem sæsonens 8 afsnit.
Okay. Ormond, you're supposed to be dead!
Well, that's not me, mate. I think you're thinking of someone else.
It's so nice meeting you guys, Tony. You probably don't remember, I had the pleasure of talking to you way back when you were 17 years old in Copenhagen when you visited.
Yeah.
That was before the beard, obviously.
That was before the facial hair. Yeah. Wow, Copenhagen.
Yeah.
I had the best time in Copenhagen. That is an amazing city. I want to go back.
But it's great to see both of you. Also, this is a pleasure for me because, I mean, Willow is one of those movies that I watched countless times as a kid. That and Star Wars and Tron were the movies that I watched over and over again. So for me to get a sequel now, and a thoroughly enjoyable sequel, I really enjoyed hanging out with your fellowship of characters. But I'd love to hear both of you. What were sort of your first encounters with Willow, whether you saw it as a kid yourself or not until you were an adult?
Yeah, no, I saw it when I was a young kid with my parents, and I loved it. I gravitated towards it immediately, and obviously when this opportunity came around, I jumped at the chance to be a part of it.
I saw the film when I found out about the show, so I only met the film when I was an adult, but I immediately fell in love with it and just thought it had such a quirky and different and unique tone to it.
Cool. I guess the cool thing about watching it the first time as an adult is you don't have nightmares about that scene with all the soldiers turning into pigs. I mean, that was
really.
I had nightmares.
I had nightmares about the like trolls, the little monkeys, like
the rats.
The were well, they don't have were rats in the original, do they? I don't remember.
No. So what are the dogs? The death dogs. The death dogs. Yeah.
The death dogs, but like the trolls, I think what they called them, like freaked me out as a kid.
Yeah.
That scene where like the fur is peeled off one of the trolls and turns into this little dragon thing, that was so scary as well. So
which is the first time they ever did any transmutation type thing effect in any movie ever.
Wow.
Yeah, which is why it got 2 Oscar nominations. Willow.
So I did see it as a kid. I was luckily alive when it came out. I didn't see it then, but I saw it a few years later when I was about 7 or 8, I think. And yeah, I mean, it's just one of those fantasy escapist films that grabbed me and took me on a journey. And then after that, Neverending Story and Princess Bride and Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, Mirror Mask, all of those movies, like that's my childhood. So this is a dream come true.
I remember watching it as a cast, which is really fun.
Yeah, that was great.
I wish I'd have seen it as a kid though, because I feel like it would have just scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And I would have, when you're watching it as an adult, you're like, this is really scary, but I'm not like terrified.
I'm not scared, yeah. It was a different world, you know, we didn't have TikTok, we didn't have Instagram, you know, the TV was our window to the world.
I gotta say that I think that scene with the pigs was one of my most recurring nightmares as a kid. With
it's
all
so
the soldiers
dark.
turning into...
Yeah.
It is extremely dark. It's extremely scary. Yeah.
My mother is Sorsha. She sent me here to come find you. She told me that once long ago you stood together against the forces of evil and defeated them. The world needs you again. It needs your magic.
It's okay. She is who she claims to be.
How do you know?
I read her mind. Kidding. Had you though, didn't I? I didn't read your mind. It's just... you remind me of your mother.
You have such an amazing chemistry, and remember watching this awesome Meet the Cast video with you guys in Warwick. That's so much fun.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with this handsome young fella, who is, all right, don't touch. Oh, go on then. Tell him your name.
Dempsey.
No, your first name.
Dempsey is my first name. Bryk is my last name.
Oh. Good luck with that.
I'm Ruby Cruz.
Ruby Cruz.
Hey, yeah.
Wow, Ruby Cruz. That's a hell of a stage name. You getting that, Dempsey?
Yeah.
That video also makes it clear that it's a chemistry that's you know that you've worked on. Definitely, you've worked very closely, all you guys together. Was that something that you did?
What?
Well, no, I would say,
comment.
No, well, honestly, yeah, we actually don't really like each other very much. It's kind of a sore spot.
You speak telepathically now. That's why you
that's
communicate,
true.
because of that strong
We
chemistry.
should have full conversation. It was very, very easy to bond with it. Like, it was, I wish we could be like, oh yeah, we're really great actors and we worked really hard on this. But like, it was so, like everyone just like was just in sync. Immediately. Yeah. That said, we did a month boot camp before we even started shooting where we were like sword fighting and horseback riding and personal.
Every single day.
Every day, beginning morning till night. And then we didn't go home. We would just go to each other's houses.
Yeah.
So that I think
you
also.
came to the church a lot.
Yeah, I
not affiliated, but we lived in this church at the time, me and Erin.
And I wasn't invited. But I would just stay.
We hate each other.
I hate this guy.
We're
Are you joking?
actors.
There was a point of filming where I was like, I am giving Uma way too much detail about
So
my life.
much, yeah.
And we were in hair and makeup together, and
Yeah.
you would tell me like
Everything. The hair and makeup trailer is literally therapy. It's just tired people just telling all of their darkest secrets.
and just spilling out.
But you had a very long makeup course, so
Yeah.
most mornings I would walk in about 45 minutes after Erin had been there, and she would just be slumped over the arm of her chair, while Angela, her makeup artist, would just be like, blow drying her hair, and Erin's like, don't talk to me.
Uma's like had a nice lie-in. He's got his coffee and his sunglasses on. He's like, hi.
Hey everyone.
Hi. About my
Another day in the woods, let's go.
But I mean, also, your characters, of course, are these younger, rebellious part of this band of heroes that are obviously working with sort of their older substitute teacher and always at odds with him. I mean, how much did that relationship sort of reflect your real
That's
interactions
Warwick, right?
with Warwick Davis?
You're not talking talking about me. That's Warwick.
No. With Warwick Davis. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I sort of see myself as a cool older brother, not fun dad.
I was like, you'd be a substitute teacher that didn't go to university to train.
Most unqualified substitute teacher ever. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, like none of us. I don't know. There's this energy because we spent a month getting to know each other and doing push-ups together and riding horses and stuff, and that is like a creative forge, which is where our friendships like really blossomed. And then Warwick is also part of that. You're right. He's got this ability to just slip into the situation and feel like he's one of the crew and laugh and joke with us. And then suddenly we're all a bit like, oh, but actually it's Warwick Davis. And he's the sort of older. He's the dad, the dad of the quest.
Yeah, you didn't terrorize him with him being the dad and with you being.
I was scared of Warwick. I'm scared of him.
Yeah, Omar would be like all jokes. As soon as Warwick came on set, he'd be like. So.
What lens is that? 50mm. Great. Yeah, Warwick. It's a 50.
What the hell is that? Don't worry about it.
In the battle between cinema's greatest wizards, would Willow win? I mean, between him, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Gandalf the Grey, would Willow be victorious?
Oh, I got my answer. And it's so politically correct.
Oh my God. That's... we have to say Willow, but I think it would be Gandalf.
Wow.
They would work together for the forces of good. Of course.
Oh, wow.
Of course they would.
Pretty good.
That is actually pretty good. There would be no backstabbing.
No, there couldn't be.
Okay, Obi-Wan Kenobi's great, but we know what his skill set is. Gandalf, I think, beats Obi-Wan Kenobi. Gandalf, although powerful, we know is a kind of upper limit. Willow, we don't really know until this show.
Willow! You idiot! Marcel?
Like, if we're talking peak Willow.
Peak Willow.
Oh, gosh.
I plead the fifth, I think.
Damn it. You threw him into the bus.
I'm not even American. I just know that's what the people say.
Yeah.
Plead the fifth when I don't want to talk.
Parlay.
I'm going to say we don't know, and I think there's a bigger variety of what Willow can do in spells. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go Willow for the advantage of different types of spells that he can do. You know, Gandalf, I haven't seen much.
I'm gonna say yes. Willow always pulls through. Willow will win. Somehow at the end, you think Willow's gonna lose, and then Willow wins.
Interesting, you chose Willow.
Yeah, I know. I wonder why I chose Willow.
I wonder why you chose.
I know.
Wow. I think we should definitely choose Willow.
Yeah. Willow.
You'll be happy to know, and he'll be happy to know, that only one chose Gandalf.
Who?
Amar.
I knew it. I knew it would be Amar.
You came out on top 5-1 in the vote. Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Only one person voted for Gandalf. Otherwise, everybody voted for you, as I would have.
Who was that?
It was Amar, of course.
I'll have words with him.
Yeah, you better do that afterwards. Warwick Davis tilbage som Willow. Det nok den rolle, som de fleste af os forbinder ham med, og han var endda kun 17 år gammel, da han fik den.
I'm a great sorcerer.
Men allerede som 13-årig fik han rollen som Wicket, den allerførste Ewok, vi møder i Return of the Jedi. Og Davis' karriere har været meget broget siden da. Han spillede sig selv i Ricky Gervais' mægtige og stjernespækkede komedieserie Life's Too Short. Han spillede professor Phileas Flitwick i Harry Potter-filmene. Og så må man naturligvis ikke glemme de hele 6 Leprechaun-film.
What the hell are you?
I'm a leprechaun, me dear.
Hvor i Davis spillede verdens ondeste alf, herunder mesterværket Leprechaun in the Hood.
I come from the land of the Irish Spring. Dublin's the place where I learned my thing. From the Emerald Isle to your place in the hood. I'm the man of green, come to do no good.
Men næst efter den film, så er Willow nok den største titel på Davis' CV.
Hello, Johan from Denmark. Are you in your library?
It is. It's my movie library, actually.
Very impressive. I hope there's a copy of Willow in there.
There is, of course. There's several. There's both on DVD and Blu-ray. You gotta have the complete Willow collection, of
nice
course.
One.
But this is a huge pleasure for me. I actually want to apologize in advance if I suddenly start to get too starstruck to talk, or if I get tongue-tied, because Willow, along with Star Wars and Tron, is the movie I watched the most as a kid growing up. Wow. I watched it so many times. So for me to sit here and talk to you about this amazing sequel, which is so heartfelt, so entertaining, it's just amazing. So
thank you, Johan. Thank you. I mean, it's interesting. You're one of the people who has really generated this series. You know, the fact that you enjoyed the film so much and stuck with it since it was, 30 years ago now. You've been with this, and so fans all over the world have really generated this kind of series by the love of the film.
How did it feel standing on an action movie set, wearing that iconic robe again, 35 years on from shooting the original film, and hearing someone yell action for the very first time on the set?
Well, it's pretty terrifying, to be honest, because, you know, I suddenly felt the great responsibility I had to fans like yourself all over the world to make this good, because this could have gone the other way. You know, it could have been not very good. So I felt the weight of responsibility coming back to this role, to do the best job that I could, to make sure everyone else did the best job that they could as well, from the other cast to production, that we all were on our game and made this the best experience it could be for the viewers.
And obviously, you were only 17 years old when you made the original Willow. So, of course, both Willow and you yourself have been on an incredible journey since then. I mean, never mind Willow's own personal journey. How does Warwick Davis of today compare to the teenager who saved the world in front of the camera back in the 80s?
Well, you know, just before we started the series, I watched the movie again to refresh my mind of that whole world and the kind of, really the kind of ethos and the vibe of the movie, because I wanted to make sure we brought that into the series. But I was kind of amazed how young I was. You know, I was 17, but I really was young at heart, young looking. How am I gonna continue this? Oh no, Warwick, don't try. Just lean into your 52-year-old age now, and just do that. Take all that experience of life, the good and the bad that you've had since Willow, and bring that to the character. All your acting experience you've had since then. Now, I've worked with great people, you know, Gambon in Harry Potter, you know, bringing the experience that you've got from those guys and bring it to the character now and do a better job.
And as an actor, what were some of the things that you were most interested in doing with the character and revisiting him so many years later?
It was really the kind of, all of the callbacks to the film, the areas of kind of discussion about him as a sorcerer. Was he good? You know, is he a fraud?
No!
You know, because he really hoodwinked Bavmorda into believing that he could do this at the end of the movie. It's kind of something he's been living on since then, really, kind of dining out on this this heroic status. And we get to explore that, which was a lot of fun in the series.
And also, of course, the making of these movies, the making of these spectacles. I mean, this is a show, of course, that's also evolved considerably in the in-between years. How different was it from a technological standpoint? I mean, did it feel less personal because there's more CGI and that sort of stuff involved? Or, well, there did seem to be a lot of practical effects in the show as well. But how did the making of differ between the two things?
You know what? It was, making the series was not like a virtual experience. Everything was very tactile. I felt very much there in the moment, in the world of Willow. You know, although much of it was going to be created later on, it's done in such a seamless way now. There's much less green screen around than I remember on Willow, the film. It's amazing what LM can now do. You know, and I was very experienced working with brownies, which we introduced into the series.
Willow!
I need your help.
Just like old times. Attack! Running! Horses! Mayhem! Mayhem! Happy to see it.
I knew how that all worked. As long as I believed they were there, it would look like they were actually there. And on the series, I had the advantage of having the wonderful Kevin Pollak actually sat on set with me, you know, bouncing dialogue off him and creating the funniest moments we could. And another technique we used on the series that I hadn't been privy to on the film was the kind of oversized sets for the brownies to be on. So when they were doing their scenes, I was kind of off camera doing my side of the dialogue for Kevin. And then we could come up with little moments and things that we would have missed otherwise.
I just gotta ask, you know, now that Willow has its own sequel show, and of course there's countless Star Wars shows in production now, wouldn't you be up for doing a sequel show about Wicket, you know, about his post-Ewok movies, Live and Return of the Jedi?
I wonder. I mean, I've been involved with Star Wars ever since that in various forms. I'm often asked to go back and do some of the TV work.
Jedi.
But yeah, something for Wicket would be fun, wouldn't it? Although, let's look at the other characters I've played. You know, I think there's some really interesting characters in there, namely Weetief from Rogue One. You know, what's happened to him? Did he end up blowing up? I can't remember now. It's all a blur. But some of those characters I played, like Weasel, for example, in Solo, you know, he's kind of an interesting character too. Let's find out what he gets up to.
Yeah, he was also the spectator in The Phantom Menace, if I remember correctly.
Well, yeah, he was indeed, yeah. I think that was really clever bringing him back.
Warwick, thank you. It's been such a pleasure and such an honor. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, Johan. Thank you.
Til sidst talte vi med seriens hovedproducer og forfatter, Jon Kasdan. Efternavnet genkender du måske, for Johns far, Lawrence Kasdan, er en af Hollywoods største manuskriptforfattere i nyere tid, med film som The Empire Strikes Back og den første Indiana Jones-film i bagkataloget. Kasdans mor, Meg Kasdan, er også en Oscar-nomineret manuskriptforfatter, som skrev Guldbjørnsvinderen Grand Canyon sammen med Lawrence. Og Johns storebror, Jake Kasdan, er også en prominent Hollywood-instruktør, med blandt andet de nyeste Jumanji-film på samvittigheden. Og vi fik en længere snak med Jon Kasdan, både via Zoom og senere via telefon, så ikke alt er blevet optaget på video, men både foran og væk fra kameraet er Jon en spændende fortæller, som tidligere har arbejdet på tv-serier som Freaks and Geeks og Dawson's Creek, og desuden skrev han manuskriptet til Solo, A Star Wars Story, sammen med sin far.
It's interesting because it's so your affinity for hard media speaks to a generation of us who grew up on VHS and home video and laser discs, and this was one of those movies that really at a time when that was the prevalent way of watching stories again and again, it was such a significant one for so many of us of a specific demographic. People just adored this movie and connected to its comedy and, grew up repeating lines of dialogue from it.
I wouldn't steal from a baby.
I hate trolls. I will consult the bones. You never, ever drive that fast with an infant. You're pigs.
And I was one of those kids, so when this opportunity came up, and I really saw it because I was sitting on a set with Warwick, and Ron was there, and I said, all the people that made Willow are right here. Maybe there's some way I can will this thing back into existence, and here we are. It's just such a thrill.
You were at like the most exclusive Willow convention in history.
It was unbelievable. Well, there was one day when George Lucas came and visited us on set, and I had George, Warwick, and Ron sitting around the sabak table on the Millennium Falcon, and everyone was like about to faint. I think even Kathy Kennedy was like, this isn't possible. It's too cool. Our nerd brains were exploding.
Yeah, I can imagine. and like you mentioned both Ron and George, and obviously Ron is an executive producer on the show as well, and George conceived this universe from the very beginning. And I almost imagine like through your father's working relationship with Lucas that you've probably met him on several occasions. So I'd love to hear like how much were both involved in the show. I imagine Lucas wasn't much, but did you have any conversations with him about it?
No, we did actually that very day. I told him that this was something that I loved, and he expressed to me and has expressed to Kathy over the years that one of his hopes in selling the company was not just that there would be more Star Wars stories, but that there would also be more Willow adventures. And he said it to Ron, and it's something they've talked about whenever they're together, wherever they are, and he was nothing but enthusiastic when he sort of heard we were going to do this. And then Ron, who was more than enthusiastic, was aggressive and wanted to be a part of it, has been with me every moment of the journey and sort of talking script, talking story, talking what is Willow, and just a critical creative partner in this.
Yeah, and you've obviously written dialogue for legendary characters before.
Yes.
I'm obviously speaking of Dawson's Creek.
Yeah. I thought you were. I thought you meant Joey Pacey and Dawson.
Exactly. But Dawson's Creek, and also, of course, Solo. But does it put extra pressure on your shoulders when you're sitting there across the screen and you're looking at names like Han Solo and Willow while you're writing?
I mean, what's so funny about that particular joke is, I got that job on Dawson's Creek. I was 21 years old, and I had just come out of high school. And I had watched Dawson's Creek as a high school kid. I'd been in love with Joey on screen, and then there I was getting to tell her what to say, which was a complicated feeling. But it was an early version of that strange relationship that you have between characters that you know as characters, and then being the writer for them. And then getting to work with my dad on Solo. He was a great mentor into that process because he spoke with Han's voice with total authority. And if he said it was okay, you knew it was okay. And with Willow, it was a similar thing. I'd built up confidence from years of doing it, but I had a partner in Warwick who could tell me and convince me that we were on the right track.
I mean, both your parents obviously are Oscar-nominated screenwriters, of course, and you're a storyteller. Your brother's a storyteller. I just imagine, like, did you like grow up and weren't allowed to leave the supper table until one of you had concocted a really interesting story?
Was one of us pitched a movie that day?
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's funny. It's like, you know, as my brother and I reached our adolescence, it was clear we were both deeply interested in this subject, and it was at the crux of our relationship with our father was the work, and he could tell, I think, by the time we were both 12 or 13 that we wanted to do this. And so much of what we talked about really, truly around the dinner table and everywhere was movies, and the movies that we loved and the movies that he didn't like, but I did like. And, you know, those conversations really formed both of our creative identities, you know?
Yeah. And imagine it must be both awe-inspiring, mind-blowing, but also, is it also just almost slightly intimidating to have a father who wrote Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Empire Strikes Back?
Absolutely. First of all, because, you know, those movies, there's dialogue that's so pithy and so funny. It's like if your father were Wilt Chamberlain and you wanted to play basketball, and, like, sure, he's getting a little older now, but, like, did you see that game against the Knicks in '76? It's unbelievable, you know? And I look back at Empire and Raiders still with that kind of awe of just like, how did this moment is so muscular, it's so funny, it's so quick. How do you possibly even attempt it in that universe? But what both my parents always did was they encouraged us to just try, you know, and to tell stories. And they were nothing but supportive and enthusiastic. And, you know, as we've matured, both of us, into our own very different kinds of stories that we tell, they've always sort of tried to relate to it in the language they know. So, you know, for something like this, it's like, it's not that hard for my dad to say like, oh yeah, I did a bunch of those and I know that George Lucas tone really well, you know?
Yeah.
And then with something like Jumanji, it's also got elements of it that are all about the sort of fun and comedies that my dad made. So it's a gift in that respect, and it's, I think what's hard about it is just that forever in the eyes of the world, you're perceived through a certain lens, and it's that, you know, sort of is partly why you got to play the game at all, and it also is a handicap that you're always going to be sort of struggling to overcome, you know?
Mm. Also, you mentioned the words comedy and fun and funny.
Yeah.
I think that's what really sets this apart in terms of other fantasy shows, because, of course, fantasy shows have exploded in recent years. We got The Lord of the Rings, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, The Witcher. But in this, where there's much more tonally a focus on the humor, the warmth.
I'm going to enjoy this.
If you're thinking what I'm thinking, so am I.
I doubt that very much. Take him to my tent and make sure he's tied up.
I don't know. See, that kind of sounds like we're on the same page.
And you don't step into a lot of sort of, which can be interesting, but like political stuff, but it's much more character-oriented.
Yeah.
Was that very, were you ever conscious about those?
The analogy I would make is that, you know, in 77 with something like Star Wars, it was like science fiction movies being made. There was 2001, you know, which was a very different kind of science fiction movie.
What's the problem? I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
But George just infused his science fiction movie with this playfulness and this sense of fun that, in addition to being brilliant, was, I think, exactly what the world wanted at that specific moment.
Boring conversation anyway. Look, we're gonna have company!
And I think that it was natural that when we built out this world, that it would follow that spirit of entertainment. And not just entertainment, but a certain style of entertainment that relies on not taking yourself too seriously. And, you know, being a place where the stakes are high, but they're not so high that you're going to leave depressed, you know?
Did he just say that we'd all die?
Yes. I knew it. Wish someone told me. I'm really scared of dying.
You're no woman.
Now, honey.
Not a woman!
Take it easy.
Gentlemen. Not a woman! Meet Lug.
And of course, the main humorous element, probably, of the original is Matt Mardigan, is Val Kilmer. And of course, his character, takes up a lot of space in sort of the tapestry of the storytelling of this new show. But I know that he couldn't come because of the pandemic to Wales and shoot. But what sort of conversations did you have with him and the creative team in terms of...
That was the second conversation I had sort of after Warwick was, of course, with Val, and it's about how Val could be involved. And he was nothing but enthusiasm and vigor and physical prowess in terms of, like, he picked me up on the day we met and said, like, listen, I can still pick you up, kid. And I was like, okay, I'm impressed. And he was always going to be at the heart of the story, but always actually, even in this way, where there was going to be some mystery around where he'd gone and what had happened to him, partly because I like stories about absent fathers and the effect they have on the children who grow up sort of reconciling what that means a little bit. So he was always going to be something we saved for later, and because of the pandemic and because of the limitations on traveling and in that moment, it felt like that was a story we could extend beyond the first season and continue to tell and even enrich potentially by adding some characters who could give you a taste of it without maybe giving you the full meal. And that's how Christian Slater came into our world, as he felt like a piece of the tapestry of the Mad Mardigan universe that was totally natural. If you'd made a sequel in 1993, Christian's the guy you would have gotten to play that part. He knew it too. He was like, I'm the guy you get if you want to come up with a partner for Val in a sequel to Willow, and he came at it with such gusto. It was great. All he ever wanted was to play Han Solo, and we gave him something that I think is fun and in that spirit in a way that he totally embraced.
Another thing that's iconic about the original film that you honor very much in this, the music of James Horner, because that's such an integral piece. And you've got James Newton Howard, he's a great composer as well, and you have some so beautiful nods. What was your idea about the music?
There's a note of melancholy around that element of this because, Ron and James were such close collaborators across so many movies. We have And it's so integral to Ron's identity as a filmmaker, as his work with James, that, I think that was a major loss for him in his creative life. And we knew when James Newton Howard stepped in, and James Horner and Howard had been friends and deeply involved with each other as both competitors and colleagues, that James Newton Howard really wanted to honor the Horner score, and he loved it as much as I did. And, he said to me, I want to embrace this score, but I want the moments when you hear it to blow your socks off. So we can't use it every 30 seconds. We got to save it for when you want that punch. And he was a great advocate of that, and I think we did, and it comes back at moments when it's just gonna rip your heart apart.
We have to hurry.
How will you defeat us?
Same as last time. With my friends.